Welcome to the Disruptive Social Care Podcast with social care provocateur and social media queen Shirley Ayres and myself, Stuart Arnott, founder of Mindings, a service dedicated to bringing social media to the disconnected. In this fortnightly show, we hope to spread the word about what's going on in the world of disruptive social care, amplify the voices of people with great ideas that few people have ever heard about, and to help our communities connect and collaborate. Well, Shirley, hello.
Hi, Stuart.
This is our first show, so I suppose a good place to start would be to describe what we mean by disruptive social care.
Not sure I can do it that quickly. What I'd say is that we have a real need to promote innovation in the sector. We can't go on delivering social care services in the traditional way. I'm part of the baby boomer generation, and if I look at the services available now, they are not good enough for me and my colleagues. So disrupting social care, I've got a vested interest in it.
Excellent. That's a good enough definition for us, and I think that's what's going to be the topic of many a conversation between us. On every show, we're going to shine a light on someone who's doing great work in social care, maybe being a bit disruptive, maybe using new technology, but certainly doing something interesting.
Well, we've put our heads together and we're building up a list of people to come on the show. Some people have even said yes, but we're very open to suggestions.
Well, we can't guarantee that people you suggest will want to be interviewed, but we'll be happy to invite them. And don't be shy about suggesting yourself.
Oh, that's really important. If you want to message us on our website, it's disruptivesocialcare.com or on our Facebook page at facebook.com/disruptivesocialcare.
So, start the ball rolling, so to speak. It would probably be appropriate to use this slot to introduce ourselves. Shirley, give us a bit of background.
Unusual background. I'm a qualified social worker and a marketer, but maybe I have to sort of add the caveat that I've always followed my passions, which are empowering people through education, knowledge and social learning. Social media is an ideal medium for me to communicate with people all over the world. I suppose I should say as an aside, because people sometimes get confused at my level of knowledge, that I've also studied criminology, ethics, management, you name it. I follow my passions.
That's quite a mix.
So, and what about you, Stuart? What's your background? And what is this Mindings that you mentioned earlier?
Well, my background is in production. I've worked in all sorts of everything that you call corporate videos, commercials, pop promos, spent some time at the BBC as well. So that was my background. But Mindings came about through, well, it was a realisation of something quite unusual. That I'm better connected to people that I deliberately lost touch with over the years than I am to people I actually care about. Now, that sounds crazy, but that's because I'm one of these people who walks about with a mobile phone connected to the thumb all day long. So I'm sending text messages, I'm updating my Facebook status, I'm sharing my Instagram pictures. I'm very well connected to my switched on friends. But the one person, and this is just an irony, that I would like to be better connected to, and the one person who would probably benefit most of all from this broadcasting of the minutiae of my life is my dad, who lives 500 miles away. And who lives alone, and who, is one of these people who doesn't use a mobile phone or doesn't use a computer. Now, he's not stupid, but it's just because, when I was a kid, I would watch him taking apart cars down to the constituent nuts and bolts. But these days, anything beyond the remote control he doesn't really do. So I wanted to solve that problem because obviously I'm coming from a different end of the spectrum. So I created Mindings. And basically what Mindings does is enables you to share from your mobile phone text messages, captioned photographs, calendar reminders and social media content all into a digital picture frame device that the recipient doesn't even need to touch. So we've built the service, we've created the devices, and we have some beta testers out there who are using it and who are loving it. And apparently we're launching it this week. Ian, who's our technical director, said, Stuart, it's the summer solstice on Thursday and I've just chosen that. That's an appropriate date. We're just going to launch it. So by the time this podcast goes out on Friday, if you go to mindings.com, you can find out what we're all about, and you can even subscribe and have a month's free trial.
Oh, that's really exciting news. Our first ever podcast, and the launch of Mindings. And I suspect that there'll be many more developments coming up. And I have to say, I've actually been following people's comments on Twitter about the use of Mindings or your beta testers, and it's incredibly positive. So, exciting times. I mean, certainly I can think of many people who would benefit.
Thank you. And well, as somebody who's trying to do something disruptive in social care, I'll share our journey. I'll share our journey with you.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Shirley, what's been happening this week in the world of social care?
Well, I've been giving a lot of thought recently to whether we need new definitions of social care in a digitally connected age. And I think one of the problems is people have a very limited definition. What is social care? It's going into a residential home or it's home care. But in fact, from my point of view, social care now encompasses all of the services which will contribute to any one of us feeling safe, secure and supported in our local community. And that's actually whether you're living at home, living in residential care, or I want to acknowledge all the people who are living overseas. So it's a big, big area. And I guess one of the exciting things about technology and digital engagement is that it makes it a lot easier for us all to connect with one another and keep connected.
Absolutely, particularly these people overseas. We've actually got some people using Mindings in Australia. That kind of came about as a friend of mine who'd emigrated over there. And he was telling me one day that he put a picture of his son in his new school uniform onto Facebook. And within 30 seconds, I saw this picture of his son in his new school uniform. But the irony was that his mother, who lived in a little town in Scotland, the hometown that I grew up in, the way that she saw that was he emailed the picture to his sister who lived in the next town, and she printed it out on a piece of paper, and then the next weekend took it along and showed it. I thought that was crazy. And this is, again, one of the things about Mindings is what I'm passionate about is getting people better connected with their families.
Well, do you see? I mean, that's the power of technology. Yes, there are lots of criticisms about the concerns people have, but I also think social media can be for social good. And I was thinking about this particularly. I mean, my parents retired to Spain. They had 15 good years there before they had to come back to the UK. And if Mindings had been available when they were out there, I'd have bought it like a shot. So I can see that you've got an enormous number of potential markets for Mindings.
That'd be great. So talking about Twitter and social media, big story this week?
Well, a fascinating one, actually. Trending on Twitter last week was the story of Martha's blog about school dinners. A 9-year-old being banned from taking and sharing photos of her school dinners. And a case study in how not to do social media from Argyle and Bute Council. But there were a lot of positives, actually, that came out of this. And one of the most significant ones was using the hashtag NeverSeconds. I think it's now about £80,000 has been raised for Mary's Meals, a charity that provides school meals for thousands of children in Africa. So, in a sense, Argyle and Bute banning the blog was a real positive for Mary's Meals. And one has to say that the ban was reversed, I think, within about 4 hours due to the social media firestorm that prevailed.
I had the counsellor on PM towards the end of the day, and he was very sheepish, so to speak. But incredible. What age is this Martha?
She's 9 years old.
That's unbelievable.
I know.
And also probably terrifying. Initially, part of their fear was that this 9-year-old could have that power.
Well, I think what sort of disappointed me about the initial response from Argyle and Bute was instead of encouraging a young person who had a lot of comments, who was actually wanting to share with people her experiences. And I looked at the photos and some of the food looked absolutely awful. But I thought it was a very balanced view. We have to encourage our young people to speak out, not sort of try and block them. That was a very bad lesson from the council in terms of education and connections in a digital age.
There's a rather French-sounding conference going on at the moment.
Yes, I think people wonder what technology has got to do with social care. Well, hopefully we're going to educate people over the weeks about why we need to take this much more seriously. But the last day or so I've been following leweb, which is an international technology showcase with a lot of new product launches. Normally held in Paris, this year they're actually in London. I think they've got about 1,500 people there. It's been fascinating following the live webcasts, and it's actually where I found out about TaskRabbit last year. And I have a particular interest in this because the growth of people-to-people online marketplaces has spread to the UK with things like TaskRabbit and Milkly. Put a task on, say how much you're prepared to pay, and people bid to complete the task. Provides a very flexible way of getting support and actually could be very useful for people with personal budgets.
That's great, and it's one of these things that could pull people in who maybe aren't able to commit to every Thursday.
Yes.
But maybe have some blocks of time that they could contribute.
Oh, absolutely. I sort of see it as people want more flexible working. And anything that engages people and enables them. It's a sort of transactional marketplace, really.
So how can we follow leweb?
Leweb, just follow the hashtag leweb. However, it was on yesterday and it's on today. And so afterwards, they put up all the webcasts. So even if it's a couple of weeks away, when you think, I'm just listening to this and thinking, what is the web? You'll be able to follow it because they will put everything online. It's a fascinating conference.
Excellent.
And other interesting things happening this week, which I find out a lot of information from Twitter. That's why I recommend it to people. This week we've got Carers Week, and we've got the launch of a rather stunning carers report about the high cost for carers in terms of their health and well-being. And we've also got, sometimes I think it's a bit of a problem with all these different weeks. I think we've got disability, and we've got Learning Disability Week as well this week. And a lot of charities are using social media to promote both of these particular weeks, which is really good.
Okay, so things to look out for and things to look up that you've maybe missed.
Yes.
And you have some stats for us, I believe.
Yes, I do. Now, the reason why, what's been interesting for me is an indication that actually the Health and Social Care White Paper is going to be delayed again because the government cannot reach a consensus on how people should be paying for social care. We are in care crisis at the moment. And I suppose what fascinates me, if we look at the statistics, that about 650,000 people turn 65 each year, and there are now more people in the UK aged 60 and above than there are who are under 18. Interesting. So 10.3 million people aged 65 or over, and of those about 3.8 million older people live alone. So a lot of challenges, and personally I think that digital technology will have a role in making sure that people are less isolated. But I think, I'm sort of thinking about the millions of people who seem to be effectively disenfranchised from the government considerations about how we're going to fund social care. And I was talking, strangely enough, on Twitter this morning, and the suggestion made was that maybe we needed a public debate about how it's going to be funded. It can't, can we leave it to the politicians? I think not. It's a very serious issue.
I thought we were all going to get personal care budgets and that was going to solve it all.
Well, personal care budgets are a good idea, but who's going to fund them? And the ADAS, sort of the Association of Directors of Adult Social Services, have indicated that their budgets are being cut and cut and cut, and more people are having to contribute to their care. And I think a lovely quote from Ros Altman, who is Director General of Saga this morning. Most people don't understand the social care system. They are still under the illusion that, like the NHS, care is free at the point of delivery. And it comes as quite a shock to realise that it's all means tested. And so that it is a political hot potato. But I think we need our politicians to be a lot more grown up and actually say, let's have a debate and say, how are we seriously going to fund it? I don't want any more rhetoric. I want some realistic solutions.
Well, that's certainly going to give us plenty to talk about over subsequent podcasts, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
This section of the programme we're calling Follow Friday, because it's Friday. Well, it might not be Friday that you're listening to the programme, but that's the day that we put the show out. But also because there's a phenomenon on Twitter called Follow Friday. First of all, though, Shirley, I've just said Twitter, and that's probably sent some people running to the hills. Now, I'm going to assume that everybody knows what Twitter is, and I know that you're a major league tweeter. So tell us, why should people in the world of social care be on Twitter?
150 million people use Twitter. So if you have a message and you want to communicate it very quickly to large groups of people, it's worth using Twitter. And for organisations that have very limited budgets, you need to seriously consider how social media can help you promote your cause, fundraise, etc., etc. But for social care, it is about sharing information. There are a large number of people who use services and carers on Twitter. And it's very easy to get a sense of how people are feeling about particular issues if you put a question out through Twitter. So if social care organisations are not using Twitter, they are not accessing a valuable source of real-time information and opinions from service users and carers. Last year, I produced a report on the future of personalisation, service users, carers and digital engagement. And that was published last summer by Iris. And that identified a whole number of ways in which both individuals and organisations in the care sector are actually using social media and Twitter. And that number has grown substantially in a year. So I guess social care organisations might think, well, why do I need to bother? My question is, if you are tasked with communication, information, advice or support to people who use social care, then what's your reason for not being on Twitter?
So, Follow Friday, how do we do it? And who should we be following at the moment?
Follow Friday is an interesting one. I use it as a source of getting recommendations of good people to follow. I don't advise, you can actually automate the process, but I think what helps is if you find someone who's providing a really good resource, then you can cite them on Follow Friday, but I'd also explain why people should be following them. And that's often how people build up the list of people that they're following. So I'm going to recommend the Nominate Trust, because they're doing phenomenal work. At the moment, they've got a call for funding out for technological solutions to help young people into employment. And that's, with the level of unemployment at the moment amongst young people, I think that's really, really important. And they are also funding a lot of innovation in technology around social care support for older people.
So to do that, on Friday, you do #FF.
Yes.
At Nominate Trust.
Yes.
And then in a few words, explain why we should be following them.
Absolutely. And I will do Follow Friday for the Nominate Trust so people can actually have a look at it.
Or they could RT it, so that they're just retweeting what you're saying. But find somebody that you're following that's giving you good value.
Yes.
And give them a shout out to your community.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
But I think it's also worth saying that we are going to put links up to useful introductions to Twitter resources on the website if people want a more detailed explanation about Twitter.
That's right.
It's actually very, very straightforward to use,
So come to disruptivesocialcare.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/disruptivesocialcare. The website's a bit bare at the moment, but we will be building that. We'll put on people that you can follow, we'll put on some resources. And of course, you can follow me at MindingsStew.
And you can follow me at Shirley Ayres.
And if you do tweet about the show, and please do tell your communities about us, use the hashtag DEUKCare. What does that mean, Shirley?
It's a shorthand for Digital Engagement UK Care.
Great stuff. Right, as we're racing towards the end of the show then, Shirley, tell us, what have you got coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I'm attending the launch of the Local Government Information Unit, Making Health and Social Care Personal and Local, which is considering how we can have different approaches to the delivery of health and social care, and different relationships between the citizen and the state, with an emphasis on co-production. I use the word co-production reluctantly because I'm not convinced a lot of people understand what it means, but it means producing services with the people who use your services. So that's got to be a good thing. I wrote a blog post a few months ago about residents in care homes having access to the internet. It provoked a lot of comments, and I want to follow this up and see if I can find more than the 3,000 out of the 21,000 care homes who are now connecting their residents on the internet. This is very relevant actually for Mindings, I have to say, Stu.
Yeah, it's, get connected and get digital.
Yes. But there is at the moment, there is no one central place you can go that tells you all the care homes that actually have internet access for residents. I think a bit of a deficit in information here. I'd certainly, if I was looking for a care for a relative, I'd want to know they had internet access.
And I also I was talking to somebody recently about this, and they were saying, so they've rolled out this broadband in a variety of care homes. And we're not just talking about a Belkin router. This is a kind of full across the board within a care home or within a sheltered housing place, full broadband. And of course, now that the money's been spent, they're going back and saying, so what was the benefit?
Yep.
And the benefit is that the staff work there can access their Facebooks quicker on their mobile phones. So they're looking for solutions, they're looking for other things. It's not just about a case of putting infrastructure there, it's about drawing people in, it's about showing people the benefits of being better communicated to their friends, their families, their communities.
Indeed, and we'll put a link up to my original post. I mean, the reactions were very varied actually to the post. I mean, some people quite astounded that internet access wasn't available for people in residential care, and other people saying, but it's far too complicated, and when there's a demand we'll then find internet access, and other people saying, but I'd like to be able to Skype my mother who lives in a care home, and at the moment I can't.
Well, I think some situations they have a computer in a communal room in the corner and it's hardwired. That's not exactly going to encourage somebody to have a personal Skype call with their family member, is it?
No. And I mean, there are some really, really good online communities to support older people. And I'm thinking now about sort of Drop By, which is for over 60s and their families and friends. And so, and it is used by people in care homes to keep in touch with the broader world. And I think we do have a real issue that we can't afford to have people isolated in care homes. We need to help them connect with the wider world. So an important area that I'm going to do some more work on. We want to engage people with the podcasts, and so we will be including a top tips roundup. So if you've got any questions about social media and social care or technology, ask your questions on the website or tweet using a hashtag DUKCare. I'm fortunate I'm sitting here with a technology expert, Stuart.
Well, that's great. Yeah, come on to the website. I'll plug it again, disruptivesocialcare.com. And Facebook, probably a great place to connect with us. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a community going on there, and we can answer questions we can talk to each other as well. So facebook.com/disruptivesocialcare. Well, that's us for now then. Hopefully that's given people a bit of a flavour of what we'll do. And in future programmes, we're going to have some special guests in. Have a chat with them as well.
Indeed. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. And please help spread the word.
Great stuff. See you soon.
Bye.